Starting off this countdown, we have Walt Disney. Turns out that Walt Disney was a secret FBI informant. Who would have guessed? Not me. I hope his codename was like Mickey Mouse or something. Anyways, from 1940 until his death in 1966, Walt Disney was a secret informer for the LA office of the FBI. He was to report to the office any un-American activities. And according to a number of leaked reports, Disney gave up the names of several Hollywood celebs who he thought were suspicious. And by suspicious, I mean he suspected them of being communists. And apparently his service really helped the FBI because in 1954 he was named full special agent in charge contact. I mean, that's pretty cool. This dude practically was living a double life. On one side, he was a cheery owner of an amusement park, and on the other side, he was a top secret FBI informant. Moving on at number 9, we have Ricky McCormick. On June 30th, 1999, the body of Ricky McCormick was found in a cornfield in West Alton, Missouri. In his pocket were 2 pages of handwritten notes. The notes were written in a complex cipher. They consisted of a number of random letters and numbers. The FBI believes that, and I quote, breaking this code could reveal the victim's whereabouts before his death and could lead to the solution of a homicide. However, so far it's been impossible to crack. The FBI does believe that Ricky was murdered, and we still don't know why or by who. In our 8th spot, we have Jerome EZELL. On November 7th, 2017, Jerome EZELL was reported missing in Lansing, Michigan. Later, police found his car, but there were no signs of Jerome. That was until over a month later. On December 12th, 2018, Jerome was found dead in a wooden area. Foul play is suspected. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. The FBI is offering up to $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the individual or individuals responsible for the murder of Jerome. In our 7th spot, we have Operation Ghost Stories. Around the early 2000s, the FBI learned that there were multiple sets of Russian spies in the US posing as everyday Americans. That's when Operation Ghost Stories came into play, and this was one of the largest counterintelligence investigations in history. In the end, it led to the arrest of 10 agents by 2010, and this was not an easy thing to do. Nonetheless, learning about potential spies is one thing that the FBI fears. Coming in at number 6, we have the Zodiac Killer. Just last year, it was announced that the infamous serial killer known as the Zodiac Killer was identified. However, the supposed killer, a man named Gary Francis Port, died in 2018. But the FBI clearly knows something that we don't know, because shortly after they shut down the claim that Gary was the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is believed to be responsible for at least 5 murders in Northern California from 1968 to 1969. But the killer would write notes and taunt the police and claim to have killed as many as 37 people. This has been a cold case forever. The FBI says that the case is still open and shut down any claims that the killer was identified. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with CLIVEN BUNDY. This was a huge scandal for the FBI as they were found to be withholding and destroying key evidence in this case. So basically in 2014, Bundy and his sons and supporters were involved in an armed standoff with the Bureau of Land Management due to unpaid cattle grazing fees and restrictions. In January of 2018, a federal judge threw out all the criminal charges against Bundy. A part of this was due to the fact that the FBI misplaced or hid a thumb drive with key evidence to this case. It's very messy, and the FBI got in huge trouble for it. In our 4th spot today, we have the Russians. During Trump's presidency, the FBI actually opened a case to look into whether Trump was actually working alongside the Russians or not. And if he wasn't, they knew he was badly compromised. They said that he was compromised for, and I quote, his questionable business dealings, the hush money paid on his behalf to silence women, shady transactions at his charity, and most importantly, his lies about his Russian dealings, including his secret 2015 effort to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, even as he told the world that he had no business with Russia. So Trump's secret ties with Russia and Putin certainly had the FBI concerned. In our third spot today, we have Pizzagate. In March 2016, the personal Gmail account of a former White House chief of staff and chair of Hillary Clinton's 2016 US presidential campaign was hacked, and his emails revealed some pretty disturbing things. They believe that Hillary and other people of power are part of a trafficking ring. In the emails, they use code words like pizza, cheese pizza, and hot dogs. Seems weird. Like, the emails say things like, and I quote, "I'm dreaming about your hot dog stand in Hawaii." Clearly, there's a hidden message there. Another email said Obama spent $65K on pizza and hot dogs. Again, probably another coded message. Whatever was going on, the FBI was concerned, and they were on the case trying to decipher the emails and get down to the bottom of what was really going on. Coming in at number 2, we have ALCATRAZ. In June of 1962, 3 inmates, John Anglin, his brother Clarence, and Frank Morris, escaped Alcatraz Supermax prison. They put dummy heads that they had made of plaster and flesh-tone paint in their beds to fool the night guards. They then crawled through ventilation ducts between their sinks that they had been widening for quite some time and got out into an unmonitored corridor and then hopped over the cell wall. They then used a raft that they made using over 50 raincoats, among other stolen and donated materials, and they set off into the waters. The prisoners were never caught. For 17 years, the FBI worked on this case, trying to figure out if the escapees survived or if they were on the run. They officially closed the case on December 31st, 1979. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Alonzo Brooks. On April 3rd, 2004, Alonzo Brooks disappeared after attending a house party with his friends. He was supposed to get a ride home with his friends, but one of the friends got lost on a trip to buy cigarettes and never returned back to give Brooks a ride back home. That evening, he never returned home. The following day, his boots and hat were found across the street from the home where the party took place. The local sheriff's department and Kansas state investigators searched the area in the following days, but found nothing. That was until May 1st. Alonzo's family decided to take matters into their own hands and to search the area themselves. And that's when they found Alonzo's body. Rumor has it that his body was being preserved in a freezer while police were out searching for him and then later dumped there. Several years later, the FBI announced that they were reinvestigating the case, and a new autopsy concluded that Alonzo's cause of death was homicide. So now, the hunt is on to find Alonzo's killer or killers. Someone knows who did it, and they're not speaking up. Starting off this countdown, we have the drug lord. Ismael Zambada Garcia, otherwise known as El Mayo, is a wanted drug lord whose cartel controls much of the heroin production and shipment from Mexico into the US. They also traffic cocaine as well. He has been wanted since 1998. That's when the bounty on him was $2.8 million. Now it's been raised to $15 million. So the government and FBI want this guy badly. But as of now, they have had no success capturing him. Moving on, at number 9, we have Dorothy's lost ruby slippers. Apparently, the FBI are huge fans of The Wizard of Oz. Why? Well, they spent 10 years looking for Judy Garland's lost ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz. In 2005, they were stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in Minnesota. And instead of having local police investigate, they had the FBI doing the investigation. Like, damn, how serious are those shoes? FBI's Minneapolis field office said, and I quote, "Our top priority was the safe recovery of the slippers." Dude, top priority? Some murder cases aren't even given top priority. That's the tea. But in case you guys were worried, they did manage to locate the shoes. But like I said, it took 10 years of their efforts for this. In our 8th spot, we have the Bigfoot in Oregon. In 1976, the FBI officially investigated the Bigfoot in Oregon. It all started when they came across a tuft of hair snagged on the bark of a tree. People were like, oh my god, it has to be Bigfoot hair. Plus, that site was notorious for Bigfoot sightings. So the FBI collected the hair sample and ran DNA tests on it. 42 years later, the FBI concluded that the sample was from a deer. Why did it take 42 years until the FBI made this news public? A lot of people think that they know more than they're letting on to. In our 7th spot, we have ESP. Here's another good example of FBI wasting time and money on a secret project. This project was called Project Stargate, And basically, they wanted to see if ESP could be used as part of international spying. They spent more than 3 years researching into this, until they finally concluded that it wasn't possible. On top of that, between 1972 to 1995, the Pentagon spent $20 million using psychics to try and spy on their enemies and see what they were up to. So they enlisted the help of men and women who claimed to have ESP powers. They would then help them find hostages or would trace the path of criminals on the run. They thought that they were onto something here, until they realized that there was no scientific proof behind ESP, and in the end, they wasted millions of dollars. In our 6th spot, we have the DNA. Have you ever got your DNA analyzed, maybe to find out more about your family tree or family history or for genetic analysis? Well, if you have, then there is a possibility that the FBI now has records of your DNA. Basically, they are collecting this DNA history to create a DNA profile for you. This is actually the way that the FBI solved the case of the Golden State Killer. So if there ever is an unsolved case and they recover DNA from the crime scene, then they can upload this to their handy dandy site and see if it matches any of the people who have gotten their DNA analyzed in the past. It's pretty crazy. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with your fingerprints. Even if you've never been arrested before, the FBI still might have your fingerprints on file. Now, it's not what you think. They're not going around waiting for you to toss out a coffee cup so that they can then retrieve it from the trash and dust for fingerprints. No, let me explain. So, if you've ever had your fingerprints taken as part as a background check, the FBI now has them in their integrated automated fingerprint identification system. This could include getting fingerprints taken for your driver's license, for a job background check, or if you bought a gun. This database has more than 100 million fingerprints on file. What's crazy is that even with that many fingerprints on file, the FBI can find a match within 12 minutes. In our 4th spot, we have Project Greek Island. Project Greek Island is the name given to a secret bunker built under the Greenbrier Hotel in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. This might look like a normal luxury resort on the outside, but there's a full-on bunker under there. It was built in 1961 and it's over 112,000 square feet. It contains enough rooms to accommodate just over 1,000 people. It was built as a shelter for members of Congress in case of a nuclear bomb. In 1992, a Washington reporter somehow found out about this secret shelter and exposed it to the world. Shortly after, the bunker was decommissioned. They really did not want people knowing about it. So that just means that they packed up and built a new bunker somewhere else. I wonder where. In our 3rd spot, we have the Vault. The Vault is the FBI's library containing nearly 7,000 documents on people or cases. This media has been scanned and then uploaded online. The wildest part is everyone has access to this due to the Freedom of Information Act. So if you want to read up on a potential case file that they have against you, you can. Some of the most famous case files in the Vault include Marilyn Monroe, Steve Jobs, John Lennon, and Elvis Presley. All of these celebrities have case files for a number of reasons, not just for criminal activity. For example, most of the celebrities in their files were there because they were suspected to be communists, including Marilyn Monroe. So if the FBI thinks you are a threat, then they'll create a file on you, which is absolutely insane. Honestly, after this video, I'll probably have a file on me, so fun. In our 2nd spot, we have the STINGRAY interceptors. In late 2012, it was revealed that the FBI had a new secretive security device. It was known as STINGRAY. Basically, it was a fake cell phone tower planted all over the place that can lock onto all devices in that area. They then could find out a cell phone's location, intercept phone calls, and potentially texts as well, which a number of people called unconstitutional because it's literally invading your privacy. Well, the FBI has gone to great lengths to cover up the technology's capabilities. In fact, they refuse to tell judges all of its abilities. But don't worry, they are being forced to confess what they're up to. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the license plate readers. All across America, the FBI is installing automated license plate readers. Why are they doing this? Well, their aim is to create databases of location information, aka who was in what area at what time. So these scanners are mounted by the side of roads, and it scans every car that passes by. It then collects all the data and stores it, which seems crazy. They literally will have records of everywhere you go. It's like they're tracking your every move. A report revealed that in Washington alone, nearly every block has more than 250 of these cameras. These cameras scan 1,800 images per minute. It seems intrusive, but it's the FBI's way of trying to solve crimes quicker, or keep an eye on its citizens. Starting off this countdown, we have the double agent. One of the FBI's biggest concerns is having a double agent a part of their team, and this happened to them multiple times. One time was in 1962. So a KGB agent known as Alexei Kulak walked into the FBI office. Now this was a bold move for him because just 3 blocks away was the Soviet UN mission. An FBI agent asked him if he was worried that they were watching the FBI building, and he replied with, "No, all of your people are out covering a meeting with your guy Dick." And that one sentence started a lengthy investigation. Who was Dick? Clearly, they thought he was a double agent. They spent decades trying to find this spy on their staff. At first, they interviewed anyone named Dick or Richard, while trying to keep everything hush-hush so that the mole wouldn't find out. They went through thousands of agents and spent countless hours trying to find this man. To this day, the FBI is maintaining its silence on this. In our 9th spot, we have Anonymous. Over the years, the hacktivist group Anonymous has exposed a number of large corporations and government officials. They even have exposed the FBI. One of the times being quite recently during June of 2020. Following the killing of George Floyd and the protests, Anonymous leaked hundreds of gigabytes of law enforcement files. Over 269 gigabytes of data were taken from over 200 law enforcement agencies. This included emails, audio recordings, videos, documents. In total, there were millions of files leaked. Some of the leaked documents showed that the FBI was monitoring the social media accounts of protesters, and they were also alerting local law enforcement about anti-police messages. Other documents showed that the FBI was tracking Bitcoin donations to protest groups, as well as highlighted some scandals and police misconduct. Now, some members have been taken down, but the FBI definitely wants the whole group taken down. I mean, what's next on their agenda? In our 8th spot today, we have the poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko. Alexander Litvinenko was a former Russian federal security officer. In 2006, he was poisoned by radioactive polonium-210. He died several days later, and his killer was never caught. Now, before his death, Alexander saw the corruption within the Russian government, and he fled to the UK. And that's when he became a huge enemy of Putin, and that's probably why Putin had him killed. He was out revealing a bunch of Russian government secrets. So of course the FBI wants to know who killed him. Now, things have changed a lot. Russia invaded Ukraine, so I can't say if that's still on the FBI's list anymore. In our 7th spot, we have the Jeff Davis 8. Between 2005 to 2008, a number of women's bodies were found in swamps and canals of Jefferson Davis Parish, Louisiana. The women all had connections with each other since they knew each other, and they were all involved in the local drug trade or sex work, and they all died the same way. They were also all said to be police informants. At least they told people close to them that they were. Anyways, their killer has never been caught. Now, of course, there's a number of theories. One is that they all witnessed the death of a drug dealer at the hands of police during a raid gone wrong, and that's why they were killed. The police killed them to cover up the crime. Now, that's the main theory that their families believe, whereas others believe that they died at the hands of a serial killer. No one knows for sure, but the FBI wants to get to the bottom of it. Did they die from a corrupt cop or cops? In our 6th spot, we have America's secret biolabs. There are a number of secret labs in America that are doing dangerous experiments right now. One that's very concerning is that the lab is working with the world's most dangerous pathogens in biosafety. But no one knows where these labs are, what they're exactly researching on, and where their safety records are. Even more concerning is that vials of bioterror bacteria have gone missing, lab mice infected with deadly viruses have escaped, and wild rodents have been found making nests with research waste. Not only that, but cattle infected in a university's vaccine experiments were repeatedly sent to be killed, and then their meat was sold for us to eat. These labs have also apparently had a number of outbreaks over the years as they're working with diseases like Ebola and bird flu. The government has repeatedly denied knowing the location of these places, and people are concerned that the labs are putting the public at risk. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Brian Laundrie. Last year, people worldwide tuned into the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie case. They were hoping for the best, that Gabby would be found safely and would be returned home. Sadly, that wasn't the case. Gabby was found dead and Brian was the prime suspect. He was on the run for a number of days before his supposed dead body was found. But a number of people are suspicious about this whole case. One of the main reasons being they never revealed if they found a body. I believe it was just parts of his skull and his teeth, or his body was just really badly decomposed. I'm not too sure. But they haven't released a whole ton of information. Although it seems like the case is closed, there's a lot more to it than it seems. Since it is still a fairly recent case, the FBI isn't allowed to disclose all the information that they're currently working on. In our 4th spot, we have the Chicago Strangler. Since 2001, at least 55 black women have been found strangled to death in Chicago. The ways in which they die are very similar. Almost all were killed outside or in abandoned buildings and then left in alleys, dumpsters, and other semi-public places. But to the police, they say this isn't the work of a serial killer. Besides the women being strangled and in similar circumstances, there's nothing else that links them together. Now, due to public pressure, the police were forced to actually review the DNA evidence that they gathered. But the DNA found didn't match each other or anyone in the FBI database, which is weird. It suggests that the killer or killers are very careful, but it could be that there are 2 or 3 people working together to perpetrate these attacks. To this day, we still don't have an answer. In our 3rd spot, we have the Long Island serial killer. On May 2nd, 2010, a woman named Shanann Gilbert called 911 saying that someone was chasing her and trying to kill her. She was from Oak Beach near Long Island. She was going around banging on doors, screaming for help. However, no one answered. She was sadly never heard from again. Months later, a body was found in the area. Police thought it would belong to her, but it didn't. It was actually the body of another young woman. After investigating further, 3 more bodies turned up. That's when they knew that they had a serial killer on the loose. Within a few months, police found the remains of a total of 16 people in the area, at least 10 of whom appeared to have been killed by the same person. Gilbert wasn't found until December 2011. To this day, the killer has never been found. In our 2nd spot today, we have the murder of Jean-Marie Townsend. On the night of September 14th, 1954, Jean-Marie Townsend left a party but never made it home. She was found the next morning strangled by her own scarf. Now, there have been a couple of leads over the years. For example, a man with scratches all over his face apparently gave bloody clothes to the dry cleaner and asked them to clean it, but I don't think this man was ever found. Now, rumor has it that an American soldier was responsible for her death. Again, I don't think he was ever found. Shortly after, the area in which she was murdered became known as a murder mile. That's because a number of other young girls in the area claimed that they were also attacked and strangled by their scarves. 2 years later, on September 7th, 1956, a woman named Diana Suttie was also murdered by her scarf and then dumped from a car. Her murder was similar to how Jean-Marie was killed. To this day, her killer has never been found. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the death of Betty Shanks. The murder of Betty Shanks is one of the oldest and most notorious unsolved murder cases in Queensland, Australia. In 1952, Betty was found dead and her body was in terrible condition. There were no suspects and no leads as to what happened to her. Now, one theory was created by Australian historian Lyle Reed. He had been working on this case for many years, and he believes that a policeman actually killed her with his motorcycle and then staged a whole cover-up.